What if I told you that Wano Country was not the arc that Kid was supposed to shine in?
The fuck? The fuck? The fuck?
Now, I know that sounds very crazy, especially for all the people for 5 to 6 years of we trying to hype Kid to the wazoo, or for some people who has tried to give that much faith in Kid, that we thought Kid was going to shine in this arc. We thought Kid was going to do so much with him and Kaido, and him and his best friend getting captured, him unlocking god level hockey. Yeah, I can see why it might sound a little crazy, especially after the crucial 1079 of Kid's one shot. By the God King himself, Shanks. But just open your mind real quick. Just keep an open mind for Kid and come with me through this journey as I give you the key points in why I believe that Elbaf is supposed to be the arc that Kid is supposed to shine. And before we get into this, greetings and bienvenue. My name is SS Animate, or SS the God on this channel. SS Animate is my anime channel, animation channel. If you want to go click the link, if you want to go check that one out, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna tag it in this video. And without further ado, let's get into this video. Now, let's start off with the nitty-gritty when it comes to Kid. Now, to everybody now, Kid is pretty much in the back foot. He is, well, in the lack of a better terms, on death's door after that chapter 1078. But even before that, Kid has not shown as much in Wano then that satisfied the fandom, or satisfied a lot of people who try to give Kid a chance. After this build up with Kid getting defeated by Kaido off screen, Kid and Luffy being in the same jail cell, every single time it was Kid and Luffy's similarities in that specific moment, and the theories, Kid was going to take down Kaido, Kid is gonna have Haki, Kid is gonna have a very powerful, amazing awakening devil fruit. Well, a piece of that is true, but to that extent, it didn't satisfy it as much. So come after all of that, and now with Shanks one-shotted Kid, everybody has came to the conclusion like, yeah, you know what?
Know your fucking place, trash.
Kid, hats off to you. I'm done. I'm good. I'm no longer even going to acknowledge your name. And if I ever do, it would be for meme content. So to everybody, Kid looks like he is like years behind Luffy. And at one point, I think I would have agreed. But after reading the chapters, rereading some chapters, and looking at similarities, I come to the conclusion that that one shot was necessary.
Oh, what the fuck?
Now, to be fair, it was bad looking, but that one shot is necessary because it only increases Kid's similarities to Luffy even more. Not from a personality perspective, but from a journey perspective. One of the biggest things a lot of people like to do with Kid and Luffy is to give off the similarities, and to some extent, people still do this to this day. But after Kid's reputation, they kind of took a back foot from it. So from this perspective, what Kid did in Wano Country is actually more interesting than what people give credit for. Only from the perspective, because if you come to think of it, the Wano for Kid is the Elbaf for Luffy. Now that might sound very confusing. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the similarities between Luffy and Kid before we get into that. They've both met Yonkos of their rival. They both met rivals of their Yonkos beforehand. One of them was in pre-time skip, and the other one was in post-time skip. And that is Luffy versus Blackbeard in pre-time skip at the in Impel Down. Only because the fact that he was the reason for Ace getting captured, he squared up with Blackbeard, and Blackbeard one-shot him, completely one-shot him. Now, obviously, he got back up and wanna run the ones, but Jinbei completely stopped it. And the other one was more off-screen, which is Kid versus Shanks. And that one was even worse, because with Kid versus Shanks, Kid lost an entire arm, and potentially gained scars from that battle as well. We don't know the details of that, but it's more highly like, okay, that's what it is. And some other obvious similarities. They both have right-hand man. They're both captains of the world, of the worst generation. They both have Conqueror's Haki, so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to like the more interesting similarities, both Luffy and Kid have the same level of goal to become the Pirate King, but the way how they go by it is very, very similar. When it comes to Luffy versus Big Mom, when it comes to Luffy versus Big Mom, a lot of people might be shocked when I say this. There is no real reason for Luffy to fight Big Mom.
You crazy! You crazy! You crazy!
Now, I know that might sound a lot crazy, but let's look at it from this perspective. With the exception of Zunisha, that happens after Dressrosa, that gave us more reason for Luffy to be in Whole Cake Island, which is Sanji's capture and the Royal Poneglyph. What was Luffy's main reason to be in Whole Cake Island? What was Luffy's main reason to fight Big Mom? Because of what she did, or what she had choose to do with Elbaf.
That's okay, take your time.
Not Elbaf, oh my god, I'm dumb. Fishman Island. The reason why Luffy is going after Big Mom is mainly because of Fishman Island, Jinbei, that was Whitebeard's territory. Whitebeard was a father figure for Ace, and you know Ace and Luffy, they have a connection. Jinbei and Ace have a connection, therefore Luffy's friend with all of them. And as the main theme goes, when you fuck with Luffy's friends, you fucked with him. That was his main ideal. That was his main goal going into it. It was only until Zunisha, the whole mini arc, we gained more reason to go there outside of the factor that he just want to beat Big Mom's ass. And with Kid, it's no different with Kaido. What was Kid's main reason to fight Kaido? Because Kaido interfered in his territory and fucked him up. Therefore, that he wants revenge. Because think to yourself, a lot of people, for all the people who wanted Kid to have an amazing role in Wano, think to yourself, what would have been so amazing for Kid in that role? And before anybody say anything, ask yourself this: would you consider Whole Cake Island a Luffy arc? A lot of people would agree, no, it would be a Sanji arc. To be honest, Luffy doesn't really play that big of a role in Whole Cake Island, if you really want to look at it from that perspective. Because again, the only reason why he was there before Zunisha's whole inner context with Sanji and the Royal Poneglyph was to fight Big Mom. He didn't really have a reason to be in Whole Cake Island, to be honest. And the same thing can go for Kid, where Kid didn't really have a reason to go to Wano, with the only exception that he got his crewmates taken from him and he got his ass beat by Kaido. That's it. And the similarities continue on from there on end, where both Luffy and Kid were in a cage after getting captured by the Beast Pirates and the Black and the Big Mom Pirates. They both were looking for their friends, Killer with Kid and Sanji with Luffy. Both Sanji and Killer were in a situation where they were willing to protect. They would do anything to protect their captain and their friends. with Killer and the Smile Devil Fruit, and with Sanji's whole family. Both of them ran to Yonkos, did attack to Yonkos, did jack diddly shit to them, and they ran away. Luffy wanted to beat Big Mom's ass, and after he realized that Big Mom was too strong, he ran. The same thing for Kid. So all these people who are trying to say, well, Kid is trash because Kid ran away from Kaido, Luffy did the same shit. And I remember people gaining that same energy for Luffy at the time, because people was very pissed at Luffy for running away from Big Mom, because that was his main ideal outside of the Road Poneglyph and Sanji. The similarity continues from there. They both ran away from Yonkos after they were talking hot shit and realized that the reality is y'all are not that strong. And they fought other beings that were still strong, but not as strong as the other. And even in that scenario, they didn't even technically won that whole fight. I'm talking about Luffy versus Kaido and Kid and Law versus Big Mom. And even when they fought other characters that are just as strong, if not a little bit less strong than the other characters, they didn't even win that fight. They won, but it was with context, because Katakuri there was context in why he didn't want to beat Luffy, and there were context behind Big Mom, and both of those contexts mainly reserved they were holding back. And then after that, they gained new powers to beat those characters. I forgot to mention that. Luffy with Gear 5 and Kid with Awakening. And then after that, they went to Wano. And then after that whole scenario hell, they even said the same shit, kinda. Katakuri said that Luffy would come back. And Big Mom also said that, well, if you think this is going to kill me, you are dead wrong. I'll come back. It's worded differently, but they even have somewhat of a near similar dialogues. And what makes this even so funny, that when people looked at Kid with his 3 billion berry bounty, people was enraged with Kid. This doesn't make fucking sense. How does Kid have a high bounty? He doesn't even deserve it. This man was second fiddle. He ran away from Kaido. He didn't even defeat Big Mom. He barely did jack diddly shit, and he gained one of the highest jumps of bounty.
And here we go.
Doesn't this sound familiar to anybody? To Whole Cake Island? You know, the Rage with Luffy scenario? Luffy wanted to fight a Yonko. Luffy ran away from that Yonko. He fought another being who is not on that same level of a Yonko, but is very up there. And he didn't even win that fight. And he got all the praise. And then he got a huge bounty gap. Nigga, do you not see the connections here? Kids Wano, that is literally his Whole Cake Island. And even when he's now at Elbaf, and the whole one shot happened to Kid, and people was laughing at Kid, rightfully so, because this man was dumb, and this man got one shotted heavily. Doesn't that sound familiar to a specific arc? Because after Wano for Kid was Elbaf, and if Kid's Wano was Elbaf, was Whole Cake Island, to me. And Luffy's Elbaf, what happened after Elbaf for Luffy? Wano. And what happened to him in Wano with a certain Yonko? This man was getting cocky, and what happened to him? The nigga got one-shotted. Do y'all remember that same energy people had for Kid happened to Luffy in chapter, I think it was 922, if not 23. I don't remember when that Thunder Bagua occurred, but it was somewhere in the 920s. Do y'all remember that same energy that they had for Luffy when they said that just because you have a high bounty and because people claim that you won against a Yonko or you won against a Yonko commander does not mean that you are hot shit? Y'all remember those type of people? I remember when people was keeping that same energy for Luffy. And they having that same energy for Luffy for Kid. The difference between Kid is that they trash Kid because Kid is not the main character. But when you look at so the way how it gives off for Kid, it gives off this energy where Kid is like years behind Luffy. Years. But when you look at the similarities of both arc, Kid is actually one arc away from Luffy. Not from a character perspective, from a journey perspective. If you believe that the similarities are word for word, bar for bar, where Kid was in Wano is technically an exact spitting image of Luffy in Whole Cake Island, and the next arc for Luffy would be the next arc for Kid, and where Kid and where Luffy and where Kid's next arc should be where Luffy's current arc previously, where Luffy's previous arc was. I'm doing tongue twisters. I'm sorry. This thing was having me hype. So when people say Kid is done, Kid is not done. In a matter of fact, this is where Kid is going to have his own Wano arc. Elbaf is idealistically going to be his Wano arc. This is going to be the arc where Kid is going to be more prominent, especially since we already have little context beforehand. He wants to find the man with the burning scar. So off the brick, he is going to be set up in Elbaf. Maybe not in the same way as Luffy, but probably as near as possible to how Luffy was in Wano Country. So for all the people who were saying that Kid is beyond light years behind Luffy, from a journey standpoint, Kid is one arc away from where Luffy's at. Where Luffy is now, Kid should be where Luffy was previously. And if Wano Country the Whole Cake Island for Luffy, then the next upcoming thing for Kid is going to be his own Wano, which is in Elbaf. Now, after all that, there's a question that I really want. There's a question that's been on my mind, and I've seen a lot of people think differently, or didn't even mention it. Is that if this is going to be Kid's Wano, if Elbaf is going to be Kid's Wano, where Kid is going to be prominent potentially, is Kid going to fight Big Mom again in a 1v1 fight, the same way how Kaido and Luffy fight in a 1v1 fight in Wano? Because the way how I think about it, a lot of people want Luffy to fight Big Mom. I know some people do, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I will say this. I think that completely diminishes a lot of the rivalry with Luffy and a lot of people. If you give Luffy all the characters, then technically there's not going to be that much of a competition. To be fair, there's a lot of people who been got up the competition route. They don't think of Law, Luffy, Law, Kid, Kobe as relative or rivals to Luffy. And if you're going to think about it power-wise, then I guess rightfully so. But me personally, I think this should be more prominent of a Kid fight. more than a Luffy versus Big Mom fight. That might sound weird, but if you believe in this whole scenario where this is a one-up arc for Kid, and you truly believe Kid is still in the fray of him being Luffy's rival, then and you believe in the similarities of what I just showed you when it comes to Wano and Whole Cake Island for Luffy and Kid, and you believe that this is going to be the Wano country arc, I think this would be great for Kid to show that in a 1v1 fighting, he is up there with a Yonko, definitively. And he'll show portrays of Haki. He'll show portrays of God level Devil Fruit mastery or some shit. And not only that, it also opens up a gateway back to Luffy, back to Kid versus Shanks, because I still believe Kid versus Shanks should still be a thing, especially after all this evidence I'm showing you that I personally believe.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for damn sure. So that is my specific take on it. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think that I'm spitting, or do y'all think that I'm talking pure trash, or do y'all think I'm in the mix between? Now, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Make sure you click the notification bell, and peace, and have a nice damn day. Oh yeah, before I go real quick, I just want to know, I could be hella wrong, which is why I'm gonna keep my expectations very low, as I always do, which is why you don't see me get pissed at certain chapters, because I've always keep my expectations low. Kind of like this could be a flop again for Kid, and he could lose multiple times. He could take L multiple times. But here's the thing though, I'm not gonna be mad at it if there's context for Kid, because again, Kid is not a perfect being, and technically you can't really argue about Kid because Luffy took L's in Wano Country with Kaido 5 fucking times. One time when the first encounter with Kaido, he got one-shotted, and the extra 4 times when he was fighting at Onigashima with Kaido. And if Kaido took him seriously with the Sun God Nika, and he actually didn't hold back with his powers and showed everything he got, 100% I would believe he would lose that fight with Sun God Nika. I guarantee and stand by it. So technically he would have lost 6 times. So if Kid loses to Big Mom, if Big Mom versus Kid is going to be a thing for Kid in this current arc of Elbaf, or he just takes L from a very large, powerful being in general, don't be surprised, because the same thing that's happening to Kid had already happened to Luffy. The only difference is we don't see it is because he's the main character, and the time zone of where this happened and occurred makes it look like it is a been there, done that scenario. But I personally believe Oda is winding up Kid's whole character development, and I believe, or at least I will have faith, that this current arc of Elbaf is going to be the arc where what we want from Kid in Wano would be the Kid we're gonna have in his own Wano arc.